This is an intercultural exchange and an intercontinent experience. FANTASTICRADIOUK.co.uk, home of possibilities.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Fantastic Radio. I'm here with Claudine Thornhill, and I've got lots of questions for you, so I'm going to try and pace myself. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good to be
So,
here.
you too. So first of all, Claudine, please introduce yourself to us and tell us all about your business and your practice.
Yep, okay. So my name's Claudine Thornhill, and I'm the owner of Claudine J. Thornhill Nutrition. And I'm focused on supporting people with their health and wellness. And one of the principles I have is around making people feel, think, and be better, basically. And more specifically, I'm focused on supporting women in particular with women's health issues, whether it's issues with their periods and their cycles, or issues like fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, or just cycle issues, as well as supporting individuals with things like digestive issues, IBS, and bloating, gas, weight management, overeating, emotional eating.
Wow.
Pre-diabetes, a range of things, skin issues. So yeah, and I do that through a range of things, whether it is one-on-one nutritional therapy consultations, health coaching, group work, group coaching and things like that as well, yeah.
So there's a lot that you do, and I think, I don't know, but for me, quite a lot of that I've got questions about.
Okay, that's fine.
So I might, I think there's, I think people feel that they know a lot about nutrition, but I don't know how many of us have actually ever seen a nutritional therapist. But when I was looking at your website and trying to, learn all about you, as always, there's loads of stuff that I didn't know. And I noticed that you've studied naturopathy, or is that the right pronunciation?
Naturopathy.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a qualified naturopath, correct?
I'm a naturopathic nutritionist, so I wouldn't call myself a naturopath.
So explain naturopathy and explain what you do, because right there I'm confused.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Right. So there are various titles that people can have. So you've got a dietitian, and that's someone who would have been qualified to work within the NHS.
Right.
So that's a dietitian. Then you've got a nutritionist, and that's someone who's more focused on maybe food science. So they might work for a food manufacturer, and they're about the actual components of a food product. They might also work in nutritional therapy as well. And then nutritional therapist is someone who works one-on-one with people and supporting someone through their health issues. And then as a naturopathic nutritional therapist, I bring in a more holistic perspective. So there are certain principles around there are naturopathic principles that I kind of incorporate in my work. And they're around, one of them is first, do no harm. So if I make a recommendation to somebody, I need to make sure that that recommendation isn't going to harm other areas of the body. So for example, if you get a medication that you might be prescribed by your GP, they will make you aware of the side effects, or you read the documentation that comes along with it, and there are side effects. So while it's helping with one area, there might be side effects such as maybe nausea or headaches, something like that. Whereas a naturopathic principle is around, if I'm going to make a recommendation, it shouldn't do any other harm to any other area of the body, basically. So that's one of them. And another one is around being an educator. So it's not just about giving you something and saying, here you go, that's it, you go off. I'm actually educating you around why I'm giving it to you, so that you can make informed decisions yourself as well. It's also about seeing someone as the whole person. So a client might come to me with fibroids, for example. My focus isn't just on addressing the fibroids. It's actually looking at the whole person. What level of stress are they dealing with? What do they do to relax? What are their hobbies? What is their job, and how might that be impacting their symptoms? Do they deal with lower back pain, headaches, joint pain? So I'd be trying to address the whole person, both physically, emotionally, as well. So those are some of the principles. And also I'm trained in, some of the things that we trained around was traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, so I have some understanding of that as well. And then as a naturopath, that person would have done a bit more training. So basically, if I wanted to be a naturopath, I would have done an additional year and learn a bit more about maybe iridology, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and then I could call myself a naturopath, but I stopped at the naturopathic nutritionist, basically, so that's what I am.
So did you start on the nutrition path first and then the naturopathy, or the other way around?
No, so it was studied in conjunction. So when I was looking at getting trained, I looked at doing nutritional science and nutritional therapy, and then naturopathic nutritional therapy. So there were a few options, and I decided to go for a course that was naturopathic nutrition from the start. So it kind of focused on a foundation of anatomy and physiology. That was the first year. And then we went into the nutritional components for the final 2 years. So it was, you kind of studied the naturopathic principles in conjunction with nutritional therapy.
So would you say it was quite a unique course you did? Quite specific, I would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, the place where I studied was called the College of Naturopathic Medicine.
Right.
So, so they train acupuncturists, homeopaths, and it is focused on those naturopathic principles. There are other places where you can study nutritional therapy, which are, really high quality courses, but I wanted to bring in those elements of the naturopathy. Because
it's one of those words that I've heard. I read somewhere about a naturopathic doctor, and I could be wrong, but I believe that in the UK, it's a bit, the qualifications for naturopathy are slightly different. I mean, she is a doctor. I'm not going to name her because I've got to pronounce her name wrong. But she's not recognised as a doctor here, even though naturopathy is sort of holistic kind of medicine principles, I believe. It's not something that I probably only heard about it 4 years ago for the first time. Is it that well known, or is it?
I don't think so. I think it's more well known in the States, and again, I could be slightly off here, but I believe that doctors, you can call yourself a naturopathic doctor in the States, and it's more of a recognised term, and I think it may be more regulated or registered or something like that, whereas over here, the naturopathic doctor, generally I think that those people are qualified doctors who have gone through the traditional training route and then have studied principles of naturopathy and then have called themselves naturopathic doctors. I think it's more recognised and given more credibility, I believe, in the US.
So basically here, people would see you as a complementary therapist as opposed to as a medicine professional. I mean, not you, but a naturopath, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's just one of those, I think with the complementary therapy, sort of the way people seem to be talking about it a little bit more, at least in the mainstream, I think sometimes there's a potential for confusion, because I don't know whether people expect you to do massage or do you know what I mean? I think sometimes they're lumped in together.
Yes.
And I just don't, as I say, I don't read much about it. So when I saw it on your website, I thought, I've got to ask her these questions, because perhaps other people may be like, what exactly is naturopathy about? What is it? Natural? Is it homeopathy? Is it, So
understood.
I know you've talked a little bit about the principles, but what made you want to do that in conjunction with nutrition?
I guess it's based on my own position as just, I take a holistic approach to most things in my life. I guess I'm focused on the science, of nutritional medicine, but I also see people as whole people as well. And my focus is on addressing people from a wider perspective, I guess, and that's why I wanted to kind of take on those naturopathic principles, and also just give myself a wider range of knowledge that I can tap into as well. So I wouldn't say that, in all of my consultations I'm bringing in Ayurvedic principles and all that kind of thing, but they are there if I wanted to tap into them and I have a level of understanding. But I think it's mainly focused on wanting to see people as whole people and not just address a symptom, or not just, even from a nutritional perspective, I have an understanding that, I can address the physical with nutrition, but it's also about addressing the emotional and the mental as well, and seeing someone as a whole person. That's my own position in life generally, basically. So it's not just about treating one thing, it's about addressing everything.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of what you've experienced, because I think that's had a big impact on what led you to take this as a career. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's been a journey. So I guess I started to maybe pay more attention to my own health and wellness when I was quite young. So when I was at university, I started to suffer with a condition where my joints started to swell. I started to get it kind of looked like acne, but I started to get spots around my back and my thighs. They were filled with pus, and I was 19 kind of age, and you kind of think, whatever. You don't really pay attention to these things until it got to the point where I was actually struggling to put on shoes. I was struggling to walk at a decent pace, and that's when I thought, I need to do something about this. Started to go through the traditional routes of seeing my GP and whatnot, going to hospital. It took about 6 months to get I didn't get a diagnosis from the NHS, but it took about 6 months to get like a biopsy. Really? It took about 6 months to get a biopsy or get the results from a biopsy, and there was basically I had to go through private healthcare to kind of move forward with it. And I was told that I had an autoimmune condition, and my symptoms are similar to rheumatoid arthritis, basically, and that was at the age of 19, 20 when I was at uni, so I had to take a year out. And I guess because of the manifestation of it on my skin, I started to look a lot more at what I was putting on my skin. Then it was kind of looking at what I was putting inside myself, and it was over a number of years. I mean, so in terms of that condition, it took about 12 months for it to kind of completely clear, but it put me on that journey of kind of just being more mindful. And then there was kind of going natural, and then again looking at, it's not just my hair, but actually what am I putting into my body? Is what am I putting on my hair, but then also what am I putting in my body? So that type of thing. And then years later, I'm working, my professional background is in human resources. I'm working for one of the big 4 firms, really overworked, overtired, overstressed. At the same time I was started to study nutrition as well, and got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore, and resigned from that role with nothing to go to, but I knew that I needed to do it for my own well-being. And it's only probably a year later, looking back on it, that I realised that I was probably suffering. It probably maybe terms as burnout, anxiety, stress. But yeah, I guess it's just been a series of events that have just brought me closer and closer to wellness and nutrition and taking care of myself, and just brought me, to different levels of depth within that.
Do you, because there's quite a lot that's gone on there, do you, having studied and also having gone through what you've gone through on a personal level, do you think there's a direct link between your sort of inner health and your nutrition, and maybe how that impacts on any condition you may have?
When you say inner health, do you mean emotional health, or do you mean...
Yes.
Right,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. Through my own personal experience, I think that is true. I have been aware of that school of thought for a few years, particularly when I first started studying. And I guess like anything in life, you get a deeper understanding of things as you work through them and as you understand them more. But definitely through my own journey, I've realised that nutrition is one component, but it's also about your emotional and your mental and your spiritual well-being as well, and all of those kind of complement and contribute to a well and whole person. So
when you meet new clients or people come along and maybe seek your help, do you find that sometimes people are a bit skeptical because maybe they feel that you're going to make massive changes in their life and start drinking green smoothies and giving up everything? I'm generalizing here, but do you know what I mean?
That's a concern. People are worried about me telling them to just give up some of their favorite foods altogether, and no, that's not what I'm about. Because one thing, and I tell clients, is that I'm not into deprivation. I'm not into starving. I'm not into making people miserable because they can't have what they enjoy. I'm more into finding alternatives that work, or it might be weaning somebody off of something, but also like coming back to the naturopathic principles, educating people around how a certain food might be impacting them and their symptoms, and then that helps them make an informed decision about what they want to do about it. So I can give advice, and I might, some of the things that generally I advise people to look at reducing or avoiding or limit or cutting out altogether, depending on where they're at, is things like wheat or dairy. Those are the two things, and sugar is another one as well. But if someone has a sugar addiction, or they eat bread every day, I'm not going to say, nope, you need to go cold turkey and cut this out. It's about, one, educating the person, and two, seeing how we can make sustainable changes over time, because it's not going to be long lasting if we just cut things altogether.
They just slip back to their old habits. Like we all do.
And then you're miserable as well, and that's not contributing to your health and wellness. So
so how did okay, so say somebody wants to be a bit more healthy, maybe not necessarily change their whole lifestyle, but try and make some little steps into the healthy world. What would you do? Would you meet them and have a little chat with them and work out where they are? How does it work?
Yeah, so for me in my practice, what I do is I'll first have a call with somebody. It might be a 30-minute complimentary call. And I call it a health and wellness taster session, basically. Right. So it gives someone the opportunity to talk about what is going on in their health and wellness, which actually, if you think about it, doesn't happen very often. You go to the doctor and you have a 10-minute appointment, and
if you're lucky.
That's
if you get one.
If you get one, and if you get one while the condition that you want to talk about is still there as well, because sometimes by the time you get an appointment, it's calmed down. Yeah. So it's a good opportunity to talk about what is actually going on with you and have someone listen to you, and not just try and prescribe. And I'm not saying all doctors do this, but not just try and solve the issue with, a pill or prescription or something like that. So that's one of the benefits of that. And then it gives me more of an understanding around what's going on with somebody. I can, through that call, give them some initial guidelines around some of the things that they can pay attention to or be aware of, or some actions they can take. And then I'll tell them a bit more about how I work in practice, basically. Right. And how I work in practice is that I will have that 30-minute taster session. Then if they want to work with me, we'll have a more in-depth consultation, and that usually is about 60 to 90 minutes. Okay. And that's where we're going really in-depth into what is going on with that person. So I'll be doing a full case history where I'm looking at what has gone on in their health from day dot, from when they were born, actually from the circumstances of their birth. So I'll ask about whether they were a natural birth or a C-section, whether they were breastfed, their family's medical history, and then I'll also do a review of all of their systems of the body. So I'll ask questions about, work through the various systems, so ask questions about their how their body works, ask about hobbies, level of stress, work-life balance, ask about their ways of eating, so whether they like to cook, where they go shopping, foods that they like, they don't like, foods that they avoid. So it's quite in depth. Yeah. And that gives me a good picture of what's going on with that person. And then what I go away and do is look for trends, basically. So look for systems that might be indicating that they are under stress. So, for example, if someone has a frequent level of colds, if they suffer with a lot of infections, if they have got a lot of maybe skin issues, it might indicate that their immune system is suffering, for example. They might have seen me about fibroids, but it indicates that their immune system is suffering. So I will kind of get a picture of what systems are struggling, what things might be contributing to the condition that they have right now, and then I'll develop a plan based on those things.
So it's not necessarily a quick fix.
No, and just like how these conditions manifest, they don't come overnight either. No. So we have to take time and be patient and be aware, self-aware, when we're dealing with them as well. Yeah.
I ask that because listening to you, sometimes you might read an article or watch a thing on TV about XYZ condition, and it's all quite quick. They just sort of say, right, do this, do that, and cut this out, cut the other thing out. But they don't necessarily go back and really look at the person in a lot of detail. So you sort of think, oh, well, if I follow this, I should be fine. And I'm guessing from what you're saying that you're looking at everybody one-on-one. Yeah. So like maybe if I have the same symptoms as somebody else, you still might treat us differently. Yeah.
There are, because I need to see where people are at in terms of, I guess where they're at in terms of what they're ready for. Okay. So are they ready to have a green smoothie every day? If not, then I need to find alternatives. So where they're at and what they're ready for. But also, so I might see two different clients with the same condition, but like I said, various systems other than that might be under stress. So if one client, sees me with the condition, but she sleeps well, low stress, but another client is overworked, travels a lot, can't or doesn't like to cook, I'll have to take a different approach to each of those clients. So comes back to the naturopathic principles about seeing someone as a whole person and taking everything into their physical, but also their lifestyle and their level of stress into consideration as well. Yeah. And just to add to that, after that 60 to 90 minute consultation, like you said, it's not a quick fix. So I will see someone again 6 weeks later.
Right.
In between that, I might have coaching sessions with them, depending on the program that they've gone for.
Right.
I might support them with coaching as well, so making sure that they can implement the changes that I've suggested, or if the person feels more self-sufficient, then they'll go away, and we'll be kind of texting and emailing in between, but I'll see them 6 weeks later to see what changes have come about and what we can do to further the results, basically.
So it's like ongoing support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So do you find, what do you think about sort of some of the trends that we see and we hear in sort of foods? I'm talking here obviously in the UK. Do you think some of the changes, like for example, a lot of people are going towards what they call a plant-based diet?
Yeah.
But maybe it's plant-based, but like branded things that like, like when they tell you that rice is plant-based and you're like, do you see what I'm trying to say? How do you feel about the way that's being pushed as an agenda?
Yeah, it's interesting to observe, because now you're seeing, KFC and McDonald's with their vegan burgers,
God knows what's in there, eh? No, but really.
This is the thing, So I guess, I'm wary of people taking on terms of vegan, plant-based and those types of things and thinking that by default they are healthy, and that's not the case, No. Any diet, no matter what label you give it, can be healthy or unhealthy. And I don't even like the terms healthy or unhealthy, but I guess my focus is on eating whole foods, whether you are plant-based or whether you're a meat eater. I think there are benefits to reducing meat consumption and looking at the quality of the meat that you're getting. So, not to throw shade or anything, but, if you're going to a chicken shop, a few times a week and you're eating, that fried chicken, I'm thinking, where is that chicken? To be producing that level of chicken, that one chicken shop sells in a day or in a week, how is that chicken being reared?
Yes.
What's the level of quality? And then we're taking that in. So my thing is about getting good quality food. So if you're eating meat, where you can, I know it's not easy for everybody, but where you can, organic, grass-fed, corn-fed, that's what you would want to go for.
You see, and we hear those messages, well, if you're looking for those messages, you hear them. But then the flip side of that is is it not really expensive and tricky to find that stuff for a regular, like if you've got a family to feed and all? How do people balance that?
So and that's why I think there are certain benefits to reducing meat consumption. So one is that it's easier in the pocket to go for good quality meat but have less of it, and then
can I interrupt you? In certain communities, less meat could be a bit tricky. But at the same time, one of my things as well is that we as a community need to look back on some of the principles about how we actually do eat. As a Caribbean person, and as someone one of my parents is Jamaican, Rastafarians eat ital food. People now would call it vegan or whatever, but that's been around for how many years, that is in our communities. It's always been there. So, when people kind of say, oh, no, we can't reduce meat, that's not the way we eat. Actually, I would kind of question and challenge that. But I'm not an advocate for like cutting out meat. I'm not kind of championing that. But I think there is space to reduce meat consumption and ensure you're getting good quality meat. And yes, if you can't afford organic, just start where you're at. So, going to a butcher and buying your meat, a decent butcher and buying your meat from there, and just making sure it's good quality. There's a difference between the meat that you'd get at a butcher compared to the meat from
Sam's Chicken or whatever. Not, I don't want to throw any names in there actually, but
or Jack's Chicken or Joe's Chicken,
exactly,
anyone's
or
chicken.
California Chicken or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So, do you get asked to speak at schools or educate people or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've done talks at schools. I've done talks at wellness events. The basis of this talk or this conversation today was a talk that I did for the Hidden Science Academy. So I did that. And I have done work with the NHS as well. So I've led workshops around type 2 diabetes prevention. And I love getting out and just talking to people and educating them because, it can, again, I guess one of my focuses is on making nutrition information accessible. Right. Not everybody can afford to work with a nutritionist one-on-one as well. Yeah. So, one of the things is actually providing platforms like this and sharing the information so that if you can't do that, then the information is out there for you.
So, but just to clarify, you explained at the beginning what a dietitian was and what a nutritional therapist does. Yeah. You don't do diet plans for people, do you? Or can you?
Yes. So I do diet plans for people. Yeah. So after a consultation that I have with somebody, I will give them a nutrition plan. So that's about the principles of how they should eat. So it might say increase fiber by this much with these types of foods, or have this much protein from these types of foods, and this is the reason why as well. So bringing in that educational piece. So I'll do that. I will give them a lifestyle plan. So that's addressing things like sleep, stress, exercise, and helping them to manage those areas or improve on those areas. Where needed, I'll give them a supplement plan. So that will just help to complement the meal, the diet plan that I've given them. And then where needed, I'll give them an actual meal plan as well. So some suggested meals and recipes for people that maybe just don't know where to start. Yeah.
Because I'm figuring that, sometimes it's people sort of say, choose this, choose that. But then you're like, well, what do I do with them?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? How do I put them together to make something tasty?
Exactly.
Because, I don't know about many of the listeners, but there's lots of different types of diets that I've tried, keep trying, and obviously I love to eat. But sometimes, you look at the so-called healthy food and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with it? Where's the flavour?
And where's the flavour as well? Yeah, completely. And I guess us as wellness practitioners, or me as a wellness practitioner, I can't take for granted that people know how to use certain ingredients or how to make them or whatever. So I need to provide that guidance as well. Yeah.
I'm so hungry. We're talking about food. This is terrible, right? Anyway, bringing it back to you. Do you still feel that the importance of the nutrition, and because we talked about sort of what I said, inner health, but also your sort of your psychological health, like you mentioned burnout. A lot of busy people, I guess, struggle to find time for the correct nutrition and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I guess that's going to be something that people like you are going to help us with, yeah?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And, I use my own examples as a foundation for helping people with that. So, whether it is guiding people around. So, I had a conversation the other day with one of my clients who travels a lot. She works long hours. She doesn't have time for breakfast. So, my suggestion is, what can you keep at work? What can you keep in your desk drawer so that when you're rushing out the house, you're able to come into work and actually start your day off right, or what, things like overnight oats, you can prepare the night before, take it into work. So it's things like that, or giving them guidance around when they're traveling, what should they go for in terms of healthy options. Yeah.
So basically, if we want to wrap up, you've got a range of services that are related to different types of advice and support around nutrition, whether you've got an underlying condition or you just want to get more healthy.
Yes.
If people want to contact you, Claudine, what's your handle? What's your Instagram?
Yeah.
How can they get hold of you?
Yeah, so Instagram and Facebook is Claudine J Thornhill Nutrition. That's Instagram and Facebook. Email is info@claudinethornhill.com, and my website is claudinethornhill.com.
Okay, Claudine, it's been really wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go and have a lovely lunch. I hope you are too.
Yes,
Thank you very much. It's Fantastic Radio, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
This is an intercultural exchange and an intercontinent experience. FANTASTICRADIOUK.co.uk. Home of possibilities.